Connor here with Greater Ridgewood Youth Council, coming to you to talk more about ludology. So, the last time we spoke, we talked a bit about the etymology of ludology. A lot of ologies there, so let's break it down. Etymology is the history of a word, or the way a word came to be. So it can be the origins of a word given its roots. It can be the way a word changed in its meaning. It's just the history of a word, right? Cool. Ludology, as we explained in the last video, is the study of games and play in culture, society, and history. In the last video, we broke down the word ludology. We took ludology, we broke it down into two parts, and we explained those two parts and the importance of those, as well as the importance of ludology on a grander scale outside of just games. Now, I kind of want to talk about different things that could be seen as games. So the first thing I want to talk about, since it seems pretty pertinent to this investigation, is the question, is language a game? Is language a game? Well, first, we have to see what is it, how is it that we define a game? How do we define a game will tell us whether or not language is a game? Let's start simply. All games need to have rules. True or false? True. All games must have rules. If a game does not have a rule, you cannot play the game. Because if a game has zero rules, no rules, then there is nothing to situate you within the game. So all games must have rules. Even if those rules are broken, even if the point of the game is to break the rules, a game cannot exist without something to play off of, i.e., a game cannot exist without rules. Now, it's funny because the way games work is often people are breaking the rules or getting around the rules, especially you talk about video games and competitive video games. People are always finding different ways to maximize the way that they play the game, and in a lot of ways that is by breaking the rules, right? And I'm not even just talking about hackers or cheating in a game. I'm talking about people pushing the game to a limit, to the limits of its rules, and the limits of those restrictions is exactly what makes watching a game fun. It's the ability to play around those things, to find where the limits are, really, because the limits are given to us in one way, and then, like a word, over time, a game changes, and what we can expect to see out of the game changes. And the only way that that happens is by the rules being set so that those expectations can be changed, right? And breaking the expectations, breaking the rules here is not a bad thing, right? When we talk about video games and we talk about the meta of a video game, we can talk about how that meta is always changing, it's always evolving, right? So is language. That's why we have etymology, because language is always changing. It's always on the move. There's always an adaptation that's happening in language, right? Slang is always happening in language. There's always shifts in the way that we view language, in the way that we use something like irony or something like sincerity. These things are always in flux for us. So, like a game, language changes. Like a game, language has rules. Like a game, language is often pushed to its limits so that we can have a better understanding of it and more enjoyment of it. So already, with some of the restrictions and rules that we've put on what would make a game, we can draw some parallels between a game and language.